Hi, it's Brian. I'm late. Um, so I just spent 5 minutes talking about what we're going to go live with. I forgot to push the go live button. So welcome to the Manage Comics Thoughtstream. Yeah, that was, that happened. Well, we're live right now. And I'm going to go back to just a me shot. So welcome to the Manage Comics Thoughtstream. We were going to talk this week with some of our beta users, but after talking to them earlier in the week, there's some stuff that I want to do to fix things, to kind of streamline some of the things that you don't think about when you're building something on your own. So when we built the whole system, my demo store had 20 customers in it, and I think I have one demo store with like 80. But when you're scrolling through a list of 600 customers, 200 of whom are Visa cardholder, which I actually saw this week, thanks to Sam at Dreamers, that's a different world. So we've come up with some ways to kind of streamline that. So obviously there'll be some sort of a search box to find new customers when you're adding customers into your subscription group. So that definitely kind of affected what we were doing this week, which changed a whole bunch of things. So that's where we are there. So now that we're live, I'm sure we'll start to see people trickle in. I'm so sorry about that. I thought I had pushed the button like 2 minutes before going live. I went through a whole intro and all that good stuff, and here we are. So instead, let's talk about some of the things that we're going to talk about today. So we've got this is our brief agenda. So we're going to do a development update. I'm going to talk about some of the new features we're building, and I'll show you some screen grabs of what those look like. As you can see here, this is kind of my first take at the ordering stuff. So this is in a very, very rudimentary state, but I'd love to go over this and let you know what that kind of looks like. If you have questions about that at any point, let me know. We're going to review draft orders because a lot of questions came up last week after the live stream about the draft orders. So I'll just kind of go over what they are and how they work, and kind of why they won't take things out of stock and how that could be a problem, but I think we have a solution for it. Then we were originally going to talk about some of our demo stores. Instead, we're going to go through kind of what the modern subscription system should look like. And this is kind of a bit of a roadmap of what we're building towards. And it really explains kind of how things have been in the past, and a little bit better how we're going to kind of adjust for those things in the future. Then we'll talk a little bit about building a better online store, what that means, and of course Q&A with you. But if at any point you have a question, please just throw it into the chat. I can bring it up on the screen, and we'll go from there. And then of course we'll finish up with a little next time on Thoughtstream. So let's start out with our development update. Look at it's a house with scaffolding. So we closed our initial orders and FOC orders with Penguin Random House this week, which is great. We had some subscribe to series inconsistencies. So for trade paperbacks that weren't part of a series, they were showing up with a subscribe button. We got rid of those. We've also had to do some tweaks because we can have a subscription on a series that may have ended, and then on the Managed Comics side, we just weren't showing those pages anymore. So we've had to kind of tweak how that logic works. We had items that were showing past their FOCs, which we closed that out. And we had this weird ghost subscription bug, which is when you removed a customer and they still had subscriptions, it would actually just break a whole bunch of pages. So we fixed that problem. New bugs, we've got some issues with trade paperbacks. Literally today, just found out an issue with the most recent Diamond master data file where there were duplicate UPC codes. So we've actually had to build the whole thing. That's actually literally what I was doing before we started here. We have the searching customer issue that I was mentioning about, being able to search a customer and have 500 people show up. So we've kind of streamlined that a little bit. and we had some errors with a bunch of imports from Diamond and Lunar. We're seeing weird characters in the imports, all kinds of just strange things that are breaking imports. So we've got a bunch of stuff that we're going on with that. Under development for this week, we've got some really cool stuff around subscribe to single issue that I'll go over here in a little bit more detail. Custom ID numbers is something for stores that have like that use customer boxes or customer IDs. So we're working on that this week. Some of the stuff I talked about last week, it's just taking a little bit longer to get it all wrapped up. But by the end of this week, all of this stuff will be done. Penguin Random House shipments. So we now have Penguin Random House invoice samples, and we're going to add that as a new import type. Changing distributors for comics versus trade paperbacks. So DC Comics can be a trade paperback distributor. Can get trade paperbacks from Diamond from Lunar or Penguin Random House. So we're going to change that up. Discounts on all our customers. I think we talked about some of these before. Deleting discount rates. So we have this tiered discount system, but we forgot to build a delete system for if you wanted to remove a tier. So we'll add that. Terms of subscription. So Brendan at Variant Edition asked us if we could add, when somebody signs up for a subscription for the first time, basically some boilerplate language that says, you're subscribing to this. This will come out once every X number of days. And gives them kind of a little bit of a terms that they agree to, which I really like the idea of. So we wrote up a boilerplate. In your settings, you'll be able to change those. As a store, these two are just adding some tags in Shopify so you can search, and understanding add, delete quantity on subscriptions, which I can show you a little bit about what that looks like. So I wanted to show some of the new feature development and how we kind of break it down. I really should have done this in reverse, because the other way, I want to make me little, and yeah, there we go. That's better. So the other way that we do it is a little, so it's lower fidelity in the beginning, and this is kind of a high fidelity mock-up. I do all of my low fidelity stuff in a piece of software called Balsamic, which is like just really kind of wireframey stuff. And then I do this final stuff in a piece of software called Adobe XD, which I can then create like kind of paths. So it's almost like an interactive website that I can use to show the devs how things should move. This is actually something I just built really quickly in Photoshop, because if it's just a couple of screens, I'll build it really, really kind of quickly using just Photoshop and moving stuff around. So when we start thinking about stuff like this, we always want to think how a customer thinks and really make it simple. And the last time that we talked about this kind of stuff, we really talked about the 95% that just want to subscribe to Batman, Catwoman. But then there's 5 to 10% that want to subscribe to the Z cover, and they always want to get the Z cover. So we think about the 95% first. What's the easiest way that we can make it to subscribe? And then we accommodate the 5%. So how can we make the 5% have a better experience as well? So we really want to simplify our choices and present the complexity of the modern comic in the simplest manner possible. So if I go over here to the next slide, what you'll see here is kind of the flow of how this works. So when you get on Batman, Catwoman, you're going to see that the next issue is Batman, Catwoman number 8, and that the final order cutoff was actually last week. So this will actually show you underneath, because I took the screen grab a little while ago, it'll show you that you will not get this issue in your subscription. So there's actually a little kind of warning underneath it. So you're going to subscribe to your series, or do you want to pre-order a cover? So those are like one-click buttons. Subscribe to the series, that'll get you subscribed to the A covers, or pre-ordering the cover will just get you that specific cover. Over here on the right, you'll see that when you click on subscribe to series, it's going to open up this little pop-up that's going to say subscribe to the main cover or subscribe to the B cover. If there's a C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, it'll just be a little scrolly box that you'll keep going down on. And then on the lower right-hand side, you're going to see the My Subscriptions, which tells you what you're subscribed to, and pre-orders. If you were subscribed to a specific cover as well, it would show you that you're subscribed to that. So this is a really, really simple way of getting you subscribed to things without really overwhelming you with too many choices. I'm just going to check and make sure there's no questions. Questions, always ready to answer them if you have them. So one of the things we're working on is subscriptions for admins. Same kind of idea as that last one, but this is on the admin side. So here we are in the actual admin screen, and I've got James Barnes up here. If I want to add a subscription, right now the way we do it is we've got a little searchy box. You start to type things in, and then words show up, which is great, but it's a little obscure. So what I want to do is add the ability to search for a title, a code, ISBN or UPC. And then we would show you the image, the full title. So all this information that's in the lower right-hand corner. And then you can set quantity, pre-order, subscribe. So if somebody wants to subscribe or to pre-order just Batman 113 cover C, you'll be able to do that really, really quickly. And then there's this little button that says, or a little checkbox that says, fulfill with main cover if B cover not available. So if they just want to subscribe to that series and they'd prefer to get the B covers, occasionally there's no B cover for a book, then they'd still get the series. So that's kind of a higher fidelity mockup. Now we're going to go to a lower fidelity mockup. So this is what we're working on right now for making ordering better. So this is an early preview. This will not be done for about a month. We want to get all of the major things accomplished before we tackle on some of these guys. So this is, it's about another week away from kind of a higher fidelity mockup so that I'll be able to show flow. This one is really, really confusing. So having that flow available for developers. So just kind of to back up a little bit, our developers get the comic stuff, but they don't have kind of the deep business knowledge of the comics industry that I have. And mine isn't even as deep as yours as a retailer. I just know what y'all tell me. So yeah, that's it's always changing. Got a question here. So Dream Days CFG says, can a customer subscribe to the overall series but pre-order a specific variant for this issue? Yes and no. So that's a good point. So if they wanted to just get, so they're subscribed to the series of Batman, Catwoman, and for issue number 9, they just wanted the B cover. So I don't have a way of doing that right now. That's a good one. I'll kind of note down. Customer subscribe to a series. Here, let me show this comment. Customer subscribe to a series getting A, but wants a specific variant for an issue. Can they cancel the cover A when they pre-order variant? Oh yeah, they could do that. They could just change up their subscription to subscribe to the B covers, which would be the way that I'd recommend they do it. And then what they could do is subscribe to the B covers, and in the upper right-hand corner here, you see how it says fulfill with main cover if B cover not available. That's what they would check. And then that means that if B covers aren't available ongoing, they'll get the A cover. It's funny that this was actually taken from a real world example. So the B cover wasn't available, but 9 times out of 10, if it's not right at the FOC, that's how it works. So, okay. Getting back to our making ordering better. So ordering's hard. There's not enough intelligence. There's not enough information when you're doing your orders. I think Moby got this mostly right. So when we're looking at kind of how other systems have done this in the past, Moby does a great job of it. Of course, Mobi only focuses on the Diamond catalog, so there's no Lunar, there's no Penguin Random House, because those weren't a thing at the time. One of the bad things about having basically a Diamond monopoly for 28 years is that multi-distributorship kind of became something we didn't really consider. So having to consider that kind of changes how we're doing all this stuff. For me, the big things when I was really kind of visualizing and thinking about how this worked, and this involved countless hours on my whiteboard, countless hours on paper. I have sketches around here of like, how should this work? Because it's a really, really hard kind of thing that we're doing here. And by we, I mean you guys. Like, the ordering process compared to when I ordered a decade ago is so much more complicated and so much more fraught with things that I didn't have to worry about. Things like, printing to order, which there always used to be overages. And if we missed out on something, there'd be a bunch of copies, but you pretty much print to order these days. So yeah, it's way more complicated. So we've improved the filtering to show you what you need to know. Things like showing only new series, so that you can just look at what's a new series or what's a new trade paperback series. Only showing items with previous orders, so things that you've previously ordered, so that you can figure out how to order on top of that. Only showing items with subscriptions. So I think that those three things will really narrow down what it is that we need to focus on when we're doing our orders every month. Knowing what has sold previously is definitely going to be important in figuring out what you'll sell in an ongoing feature. And intelligent warnings to show you things that might be a mistake is something we're going to build in. So these are the three kind of main screens. So if we look over on the left first, we're going to see like an order history that will show what you've ordered in the past, and whether it's a final order, an initial order, a custom order, maybe it's a reorder. All those things will be in here, and they'll have kind of the retail total. Actually, I'm not sure if we'll do retail or the cost total. We'll try and figure that out as we go along. And then the statuses are placed, partially received, placed, shipped, all those things. Those statuses you'll mostly have to adjust on your own. I'm hoping at some point we can get some intelligence so that we can actually say, this is this order that you're checking in. But by and large, the invoices and the orders don't always have a direct one-to-one correlation. So when we create new order, which is right below on the left side, we'll create what type of order it is. So if it's an initial order, FOC, reorder, custom order, the date that you're placing it, or the date that you're creating it, which by default will just be today, and which distributor you're going to use. And so we'll have a list of like everything, including Hachette, Ingram, all those folks as well. And then you can create those invoices, or you can create those, even though right now we don't necessarily have invoice, what's that called? Invoice ingest for everything, but we'll figure that out over time. And then you can create something from a file. And so if you were to click the create from file, it would upload a file like an FOC, or maybe you want to upload your previous Diamond or Lunar orders, which I know you can download from the Diamond and Lunar sites. And then at least you'll have those in the system to review them later. On the far right-hand side, we're seeing kind of an individual issue or individual view. Or did I do this in a bigger way? Sorry, I just want to see if I've got a better page that I can show. Well, that's not great. I'm stuck on this page now. Okay, let me go back to this page because it's easier to see things. So what you'll see here is we've got your like the class, so it's comic, the Diamond code, or that would be either a Diamond or a Lunar code, the company that it is, which cover it is, discount code, how many pages it is, FOC, and ship dates, the description, image from whatever we have as a preview image. Then you'll see your subscriptions and pre-orders. So how many people are already ordering this item. You'll be able to set a shelf target. So how many copies do I want on my shelf? And then an order quantity. As you can see here, I've got 8 that I need, and I've ordered 3. So we're going to have a little warning that says your order quantity is -5 different than your targets. And we'll actually create kind of a report that you can see all the things where you're off on your order targets versus your order quantities versus what we think your targets. And then we'll have previous history. So we'll be able to show how many were reserved and how many sold, how many are remaining, that kind of thing across the board. So yeah, I think this gives you kind of at least the bare level intelligence and the stuff that I know we can get to be able to create orders. And so we'll do this for, all 2,800 or whatever diamond products there are monthly on initial orders. We'll have initial orders. We can have FOC orders and all that stuff looking like this. So it really improves your ordering abilities. So that's kind of what we're working on, and those are the big things. So like I said, that last one, this one is going to be probably a month away before we get to it. But I'm pretty excited about this one. I think this is the thing that really separates Manage Comics 2.0 from 1.0. 1.0 was really just a subscription system. This is starting to feel more like an intelligent system that helps you make intelligent choices. And I'm really excited about being on that side of the fence. Let's talk a little bit about draft orders. So last week when I did a demo, we didn't show kind of what the draft orders look like and how they work. And one of the concerns from Dal at Challengers was the products in the products that are in your store wouldn't account for subscription things, and they would they could potentially get pulled from that stock. So we treat the subscriptions as a totally different thing than the regular products, and they actually don't get counted as part of your overall stock. So when you create a draft item, you can't actually create a cost on it, which sucks, and you are tracking it separately than all the other products in your inventory. So this is really important if you're going to create a draft order just by default out of Shopify. Just remember that when you create that, it's not actually pulling from your stock. So you just have to keep that in mind. So we lose some tracking. We lose the cost of goods sold, stock tracking, obviously, but we're going to keep this stuff over in Manage Comics. And at some point we'll figure out a way to integrate that with Stocky. This is not our permanent solution. This is our right now solution. There's a lot of limitations on what Shopify does. And so we're pretty confident that those things are going to change in the future. These are not things that they've written in stone. There's a few things that they've got set in stone, like their actual checkout process. They won't let you really mess with it. But a lot of this stuff, as they've added point of sale, which was kind of an after the fact thing, they're starting to realize that those things are happening and they need to adjust it. So an example would be, I want a separate stock level for the online store than I do for the point of sale. So let's say I've got 20 available on the point of sale, and I only want to make 5 of those available online. So that's a good example. 2 quick questions here. Let's get to those. So Dream Days CFG says, how does the shelf target work? Does a user input it per issue, or is it set up for a subscription, i.e. every issue in the series has a shelf target? Great question. So initially you would input that on each issue. The 2 things that are going to be based on subscriptions would be, based on customer input, would be subscriptions and pre-orders. And so those are like how many customers have subscribed to this, how many customers have pre-ordered it. So how many customers are getting Batman Catwoman number 8 because they're subscribed to Batman Catwoman, and how many of them have said, I specifically want a copy of Batman Catwoman number 8 cover A, which is a different thing. So they've pre-ordered that. And then the shelf target by default would be 0. So you'll actually enter in that number. This order quantity would get created automatically, because it would be 4 plus 2 plus 2 to create 8, but you can adjust that down because that's actually the number you're going to order. So it would just say, hey, just FYI, you've got a shelf target of 2, you've got 4 subscriptions, 2 pre-orders, and you just entered in 14. You're over your shelf target by 6. So that's kind of how that'll work. Marcel Brillman says, is there more information on when the Shopify app will be available for Europe? So we're targeting probably mid to late October with Europe rollouts. And the reason for that is we're still working on European data. And to be honest, I need to get the North American data rock solid before we move to European data. So our big problems with European data are the diamond codes on DC products. And then there's a bunch of products that Europe gets that North America doesn't. So a good example is 20,000 AD. We don't even get it over here for like 4 months. So our diamond codes are completely different for that stuff. We don't even have the solicitation information. So once we get that stuff, we'll be able to roll out to Europe. All right. Did I do the thing again where I'm stuck? Yeah, that's kind of everything about draft orders. Any questions on that stuff? I'm going to jump into kind of the main part of this thought stream this week, which is around subscription systems and what it is we're building and how we think our solution is good. So why do we need subscriptions in 2021? Industry's changed vastly. So I started my online store in 2005, and the way that the industry has changed in that time is crazy. At the time, I remember there was a big deal around the whole Marvel, what was that? The No More Mutants thing, House of M. There's a big issue with the House of M variant covers, and they were really, really hot at the time. They were selling for $25, $30 each. But that was a fairly rare thing. But now, like, everything has A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P covers. I just saw that Brian, what is that? I think it was a Brian Bendis series, has covers A through H, which is insane. So yeah, that's a big difference, and because of that, there's lower print runs on the individual issues. There's no overprints on most of this stuff, especially as you get higher in the cover kind of stuff. There's a higher overall collectability mentality. People want a specific cover. I'm going to get on my soapbox for a second. It still boggles my mind that people care more about the cover than what's inside. And at one point, I wrote a rant about this when I owned All New Comics. Just kind of irritates me that the industry has catered to that, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense from a collector's perspective. Because when you look at these things a year or two out, they're not maintaining that $25 value. So it's kind of crazy. Having to deal with 3,000 monthly SKUs is a nightmare. Lack of shelf space for that much SKU, especially when you have to show 5 of the same comic across a shelf. That's wow. So kind of knowing what your orders are going to be before you place them. Obviously, orders are taking too long. Without a system for pre-orders, they take forever. If you're using spreadsheets or papers and notes and the physical binder, I think of you every night. I still know some stores like Heroes Cards and Comics in London, Ontario, which is the store I worked at from 89 to 92. They still use a binder, and they have probably 500 customers who have all their subscriptions and binders. I don't even know how they do their subscription stuff. With such uncertainty in ordering, there's too many SKUs that you can bet on, so you can't really just kind of bet things. Having a guaranteed pre-orders really gives you a barometer in what you should be ordering, and seeing trend lines go up and down when you see people add and drop titles will show you what you need to know before other people get. And then knowing your numbers lets you make some safe bets. Cash flows with just the way terms are, that you pay now and get paid later, really sucks. So your customers pay much later, and sometimes they don't even know what's waiting for them. A friend of mine here in town, before the store started using Manage Comics, he would tell me often, like, yeah, I don't even know what's waiting for me. And I'm like, dude, they were using Comic Suite, so he should have known, but he wasn't getting emails for whatever reason. But now he knows every week, okay, this is what's been pulled for me, and I've got a list of what's available for me. The other nice thing from an administrative point of view is that you can quickly see what's delinquent without looking in a box, because you'll see just your list of outstanding orders. And you got a shrinking subscription list. People don't really know what they're missing, because jumping on points are also jumping off points. Anecdotally, when Uncanny X-Men relaunched, way back when, like I think 6-7 years ago, that was the last issue of Uncanny X-Men I ever bought, because I had bought every issue from like 152 up off the newsstands, and when the last issue came out, I just jumped off. So I do still read a lot of X-Men stuff, but I don't really have a affinity for Uncanny X-Men anymore. But seeing what other people subscribe to will influence people to subscribe to more things, letting them know what's new. So we write an email every month that tells about all the new series that are out. And that includes deep links right into the series on your store. I still have to figure out how to do that for Shopify, because we have that in our old system. Because all the pages, though, are being generated through GeekFetch and then shown on your store, it should actually be relatively easy for me to build that thing. And letting people know about final order cutoffs and what's available this week for kind of a final order are all important things that will help to increase your subscriptions. Online subscriptions are just better overall. They empower your customers to make choices. They give you accurate numbers, and they are like literally updated by the hour. Well, in real time, really, because as soon as a customer makes an adjustment, you get notification about it. Notifies customers when their books are in, and alerts them to similar products that will that they may be interested in. So this page is actually a page on my long box of comics demo, and you'll see the subscribe to series to Wonder Woman 773. Marcel says he's ordering through Excel with 50 subs. That's hell already. I hear you, man. Yeah, in the beginning when I ran my thing, I think we were up to about 20 subs before we had to build a system, because I just couldn't handle it anymore. So I feel for you, Marcel. Let's talk real quick about a better online store and what that means. The first question I always get is like, I'm hesitant to open a Shopify store because I don't want to handle shipping. And I've just got to say that the pandemic totally changed the rules. Pickup in store and curbside pickup are now huge things. And the stores I talk to, they say that accounts for the majority of their online sales. A lot of stores won't even offer shipping. So if you're not wanting to box things up and send them out, then just don't offer shipping and say that only curbside and in-store are permitted. Or maybe it's just in-store. And what you'll find too is that it creates ancillary purchases. So somebody may want to buy this Rick and Morty versus D&D trade paperback because they see that it's the only copy you have in stock. But when they come in to pick that up, they may grab a couple other things off the shelf. So what it does is it really just kind of assures them that there's things that they can pick up when they get in. And of course, you don't need to cater to out-of-state speculators. Everybody's always telling me, I don't want to sell all my copies of the first issue of, the new X-Men series that just launched last month, because they're going to go to people who aren't going to buy issues 2 and 3. And that totally makes sense. So don't do it. Big important thing is like, how do customers find you? So if you set up your Google My Business properly, and if you haven't, we actually have a video on how to do that. So go back into our archives and check that out. Make sure your Google My Business is kept up to date. Make sure your hours are there. But more importantly, dedicate some real estate on your website to your location. So this is Comic City. We built this site for them about a month ago, maybe almost 2 now. And at the bottom of the homepage, they have all their locations. They also have the locations like on the footer on every page. And then they have a locations page that breaks down their 4 locations in Michigan. So make sure you have something like this. These all have links directly to the Google Maps, because I find that's just the easiest way for me on my phone to find a place. So I made sure we added links to the Google Map locations on each one of them. Update your hours, especially when they change, and maintain the hours on all the platforms you have. The number of times, especially this last year, where stores that I've gone to have had one set of hours on their Google listing, another set on their website, another set on their Facebook, it's pretty shocking that that's happening still. So if you can't maintain it on a platform, remove it from that platform. You can remove your hours from Facebook. You can remove your hours from Google. You can remove your hours from your website. If you can't maintain them and they're not going to be accurate, remove them. I went to buy a rower for my wife a couple weeks ago. It was a Sunday. Got to the place at like 4:00 and they were closing the doors, and their website says 5 and their Facebook says 6. So I decided to show up at 4. They didn't. Oh, but that happens all the time. So just make sure that you can kind of maintain that. One of the key barometers that Google uses to actually see whether or not you're in a kind of ongoing business is how often your website updates. And the easiest way to do it is to update your products. So if you're using Manage Comics 2.0 in the future, this will just happen automatically for you. But in the meantime, make sure that you've got a rotating list of products that is getting updated constantly. This is another store we've built, Dreamers and Make Believers, and they update their stuff every Wednesday, every Tuesday. They are actually a Manage Comics 2.0 beta store, and we'll talk to them in the future. I'm hoping to talk to Sam and Miranda in the next couple of weeks. We just talked earlier this week, but I mean, like on camera, I'd love to get their thoughts on how things are going. Make sure you're rotating not just products, but also probably the actual areas of your page. So look at your analytics and see if people are doing what you're expecting them to do. And if they're not buying like you expect them to buy, if they're bouncing right out of the site, you may have to do some work on kind of where things are placed on your site. Especially if you're kind of like, these guys are really cool and they do a lot of indie stuff and a lot of kind of kids oriented stuff. So if I was advising them on what they should be doing, if that's the stuff that has the majority of their store, that's also the stuff that should kind of be front and center and spotlighted on their website. Yeah, review your analytics. Oh, that slide wasn't supposed to be there. That's how the sausage is made. I just actually added analytics to a bullet point here. Q&A, any other questions? We've run about 45 minutes. I only expect these things to be a half an hour usually. So again, I've gone long-winded. If you have any questions, shoot them now, or we will be talking again next week. So next week, actually in 2 slides, I'll tell you what we're going to do next week. But we're going to talk same Manage Comics time, same Manage Comics channel in 2 weeks. Next time on the Thoughtstream, we will do a development update. So we're going to just kind of go over what was accomplished this week. I like that because, one, it kind of keeps me riding the team to make sure that things are getting done. We're going to go over the roadmap, and you'll see that a lot of stuff has been kind of stroked off as we accomplish more things, but we'll also kind of go over what are the big things that are going to come up. And I want to put some kind of milestones on kind of launch, and then we'll do a launch kind of post-launch series of things. I'll make sure I get a European kind of timeline in there, and we'll put some kind of markers on that roadmap so we can see where we're going to be. We're going to talk about where we are at next week, and we will definitely figure out kind of when we're going to open it up wider. So right now we have 8 stores using the platform. I have like 3 of them who are ready for imports. We're just got to get those imports. And we have a couple of features that we have to add, namely custom customer numbers in order to kind of get to our next point. But as soon as that gets done later this week, then we'll get those folks out. So yeah, we're going to say, like, when are we going to launch? And I'm feeling really, really confident now that we know in the next few weeks exactly, like, I think by the middle of next week, we'll know what our actual launch date is. In the meantime, visit us on YouTube. I just, so if you search Manage Comics on YouTube and you find our little robot guy, right now I'm calling him Subscribotron. You will see all of our previous thought streams. I think we've done 10 to date. So I put up all the old ones from our old channel, and those are up there too. There's some really, really good stuff. As I was going through this, I forgot that we did this step-by-step Google My Business one, which is amazing. Like I mean, don't mean to toot my own horn, but it actually walks you step-by-step on how to update your Google My Business. There's a secret history of us. There's the Manage Comics 1.0 webinar, which isn't really, relevant anymore, but I still like it. Let me show a couple of questions. Infinity Flux Comics asks, any chance you'll be adding intelligent warning for customers to see who are both subscribed to a series and trying to pre-order a variant for the same series in case they don't mean to order both? Yeah, for sure. So interesting question. That person would see, so on there, yeah, a warning would be a great idea. On the actual page, if you see in the bottom right-hand corner, you're going to see my subscriptions and my pre-orders. It would be interesting to give a warning around that. Great idea. And we'll have to look at kind of how the smart way to do that is, so that we're not doing it and just adding more work on for folks. Most importantly, but out of curiosity, where is your development team located time-wise? Most of us are here in London, Ontario, which is Eastern time zone. So there's myself and my partner, Craig, who I'm on the BA side. He's on the marketing side. Taras, who's our kind of development lead, he owns a company called Code Elves, and they're our development partner. He's here in London. I can literally drive to his house in 5 minutes. His team, and he has a large team of, I think, 10 developers, are located in the Ukraine. So whatever that is. But we're like, between Taras, myself, and his team, I think we're available 18 of 24 hours. So yeah, we're not quite, 24 hours a day. But honestly, we don't really seem to hit any times when folks aren't available. And I have our help desk stuff on my phone, so I get pinged at all hours of the day and night. And if it's something urgent, I can shoot it over to somebody really, really quickly. Great question, though. I think that's going to do it for this week. Again, next week, I'm anticipating we're going to have some really, really great things to announce. I'm so excited because I see things change every day, and it sometimes it gets frustrating because it doesn't feel like we're going fast enough. But also, as soon as we got people involved and like had real customers using things, that's when we started seeing the things that we would never have seen through just, the development process. So yeah, I know it's not nearly as soon as what we wanted. We were waiting in limbo for 6 weeks from Shopify, and then we hit the ground running pretty hard and have just kind of really, really built a great plan for what I think we're going to be doing in the near future. And I'm really, really excited to see people using the system and to see what they're finding. So that's it for now. If you're not already on the Manage Comics waitlist, I encourage you to join it, because you will get an email every time we go live. And we send a summary email every Friday that kind of talks about what we did and what we're working on. And we'll also include a link to this. So that's it for this week. We will see you next week, Thursday. I think it's September the 23rd at 3 p.m. Eastern time. That's 12 p.m. Pacific. Have a great day. Have a great week, and see you then.